If you open up your phone right now and just search for how to be successful, you are instantly going to be hit with this like deafening barrage of
Oh,
noise.
yeah, absolutely deafening.
Right. Like you have people yelling at you through the screen to wake up at 4 in the morning, submerge yourself in freezing cold ice baths, optimize every single second of your day.
Out hustle your competitors.
Exactly, out hustle everybody, and essentially treat your everyday existence like it is some kind of hostile corporate takeover.
It's intense.
It is incredibly loud, it's aggressive, and frankly, I mean, it just leaves you feeling completely exhausted before you've even had your morning coffee.
Well, because it creates this state of perpetual hypervigilance, you know?
Yeah.
We are conditioned by a lot of modern culture to believe that success is strictly an external conquest. Like it becomes a literal scoreboard.
Whoever has the most toys wins.
Right. We look at life as this game of accumulation, whether that's wealth or power, status, or social media followers now.
Hmm.
We're just constantly told to dominate our environment.
But if you step away from the push notifications for just a second and you actually look at the undercurrent of human history, there is an entirely different frequency playing in the background.
A much quieter one.
A much quieter frequency. And it suggests that maybe, just maybe, we have this entire equation completely backward.
Yeah, the premise of that quiet frequency is that the things we are so frantically chasing are often the exact things generating our underlying anxiety.
Which brings us to our mission for you today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our goal is to cut through all of that modern noise, mute the hustle culture for a bit, and extract the actual foundational tenets of a meaningful existence.
Yes.
And we are looking at a really fascinating source document today. It's titled simply Timeless Principles of Life.
Such a great title.
It is. And the text lays out this comprehensive philosophy asserting that true success has absolutely nothing to do with your bank account, your job title, or your public influence.
The document entirely flips the paradigm. I mean, it argues that the real undeniable metrics of success are the quality of your character, the absolute peace of your mind, and the fundamental kindness of your actions.
It's a totally different architecture for what it means to actually win at life.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this. We aren't just going to rattle off a list of ancient rules for you today. We're going to break this philosophy down into a practical, functioning roadmap. We want to show how this kind of ancient wisdom is, ironically, the ultimate life hack for our overloaded modern world.
Yeah. And to do that, we have to start at the absolute baseline.
Right, because before you can go out and change the world or, fix your relationships or build a lasting career, you have to establish jurisdiction over the only piece of real estate you actually control.
Your own mind.
Your own mind.
That inner landscape is the foundational layer. I mean, if you build a mansion on a cracked foundation, it will eventually collapse.
Regardless of how beautiful the exterior looks.
Exactly. And the source document is completely unambiguous about this. It's Principle 3, actually, which states that your mind shapes your life.
Meaning every single thought you entertain is actively influencing your attitude, your decisions, and ultimately your future reality.
Right.
Now, we hear phrases like positive thinking all the time, right? To the point where it sounds like a hollow cliche on a bumper sticker.
Sure.
But the text frames this mechanically. It warns us to vigorously protect our minds from negativity because it's a direct progression. Like, your thoughts become your actions, and your actions become your destiny.
Yeah, we tend to think of our thoughts as these harmless, invisible clouds just passing through our heads.
Like they don't matter.
Like they don't matter. We don't take them seriously. But psychologically speaking, a negative thought is a seed. If you give it the water of your attention, it grows into a cognitive bias.
Wow.
It begins to literally filter how you see the world. So if you constantly dwell on how unfair things are, your brain will subconsciously look for evidence of unfairness to validate that thought.
It's like you're programming your own algorithm.
Yes. Eventually, that becomes a behavioral habit, and that habit dictates the reality you live in.
So if our thoughts are essentially the seeds of our reality, then the hardest part of this isn't fighting off the negativity of the outside world, is it?
No, not at all.
The hardest part is having the discipline to conquer our own inner laziness and our own ego. Which brings up Principle 7. The text actually argues that defeating your own fears, your anger, and your ego is a far greater achievement than defeating anyone else.
It requires a complete redefinition of strength.
How so?
Well, society typically defines strength by how much influence you can exert over others, right? Like how many arguments you can win or how many people report to you at work.
Who's the loudest in the room?
Right. But the text insists that real strength lies in self-discipline. It's the continuous mastery of your own impulses.
I always picture the mind as a steering wheel.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like if you are sitting in the driver's seat, but you refuse to put your hands on the wheel and actively steer, the car doesn't just safely roll to a stop.
Definitely not.
Your ego, your unchecked fears, your impulses, they're all fighting to grab that wheel. And they will absolutely drive you off a cliff if you just leave the mind on autopilot.
Leaving the mind on autopilot is incredibly dangerous. And the reason for that is human beings have a default setting of fear and self-protection.
Survival mode.
Exactly. Evolutionary biology wired us to constantly look for threats, so you have to intentionally take the wheel to override that default system.
But steering requires you to actually look at the road directly in front of you.
Right.
You can't steer effectively if you are constantly staring in the rearview mirror or squinting at a map trying to figure out a turn that is like 300 miles away.
Which brings us to Principle 5.
Right. The text places a massive emphasis on living fully in the present moment. It explicitly states that the past cannot be changed, the future is uncertain, and worry simply steals today's peace.
It promises that focusing on the present yields greater joy and clarity.
Okay, I have to push back on the practicality of that, though,
Fair enough.
because it is incredibly easy to print "stay present" on a coffee mug. But how do we actually execute that when we are naturally wired to anticipate and plan for a highly uncertain future?
It's hard.
If I don't plan for tomorrow, I might not have a roof over my head. It feels entirely unnatural and frankly irresponsible to not worry about the future.
What's fascinating here is that tension is exactly why this is so difficult. The distinction the text is making is between productive planning and counterproductive rumination.
Okay.
When the text talks about staying present, it is acknowledging that worrying, like obsessing over uncontrollable variables, is a misuse of your imagination.
You're just spiraling.
You're suffering in advance for things that haven't happened and very likely never will happen.
Pre-suffering.
Pre-suffering, yes.
That is a terrible habit we all seem to share. I mean, we live out the worst case scenario in our heads 100 times before the actual event even occurs.
Precisely. And protecting your mind from that imaginative pre-suffering is your first line of defense against unhappiness. Mastering the mind allows you to anchor yourself in the present.
Because that's all we actually have.
Right. Cognitively and emotionally, the present is the only place where joy can be processed.
Yeah.
You cannot feel the sensation of happiness in the past, and you cannot feel it in the future.
You only have the capacity to feel it right now.
Exactly. So the document is instructing you to anchor your attention in the only reality you actually have access to. Which means self-discipline isn't about punishing yourself.
It's about liberation.
Exactly. Liberation from unnecessary mental anguish.
Okay, so we take the steering wheel, we anchor ourselves in the present, we establish this beautiful control over our internal landscape.
Sounds great on paper.
Right, but it's easy to cultivate this internal peace when you are sitting alone in a quiet room meditating.
Oh, sure.
The ultimate stress test of this philosophy is what happens the moment you walk out your front door. The outside world is chaotic. Things break, the economy shifts, people behave unpredictably.
The world is loud.
Very loud. So how does this philosophy handle the inevitable roadblocks and severe adversity the outside world constantly throws at us?
Well, that is the necessary transition from internal mastery to external navigation. And the source document addresses this friction with Principle 2.
Which is demanding that we learn to accept what we cannot change while focusing our energy strictly on what we can.
Which is brutally difficult to practice.
Incredibly difficult. The text reminds us that life is constant change. It argues that resisting reality causes immense stress and that accepting what cannot be changed is the only way to move forward with wisdom.
E is essentially an energy conservation strategy. Think about the sheer volume of mental and emotional energy we waste arguing with reality.
Oh, tons.
We tell ourselves, this shouldn't have happened, or they shouldn't have done that.
Right, but the stark truth is it did happen, and they did do it.
Exactly. Resisting a reality that has already materialized is a battle you will lose 100% of the time.
You just end up drained.
It drains the cognitive load you need to actually solve the problem.
The analogy that always comes to my mind is dealing with the weather.
Okay.
Handling the uncontrollable elements of life is exactly like handling a massive rainstorm. When the storm rolls in, you can stand in your front yard and scream at the clouds.
You could.
You can shake your fist, you can argue about how the forecast said it would be sunny, you can throw a complete tantrum, but you're just going to get soaked and miserable.
Because the clouds are entirely indifferent to your picnic plans.
Exactly. That is what resisting reality looks like. But accepting reality doesn't mean you just stand there and let the storm ruin your day.
Right. Not at all.
Accepting reality means you acknowledge it is raining, you go inside, and you grab an umbrella. You focus on what is actually in your control, which is your reaction, your preparation, and you move forward.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of radical acceptance is deeply tied to the concept of patience, which is Principle 8.
Patience is our highest strength.
Yes. The text frames patience not as a passive waiting game, but as our highest strength. We frequently mistake patience for weakness in our society.
We really do. We assume being patient means, like, letting people walk all over you while you wait for things to magically improve.
Right. But it pairs calmness with persistence. The document says every worthwhile achievement requires time, and that patience gives you the courage to endure hardships without losing hope.
So true patience is a highly active state.
Highly active. It is the psychological endurance required to experience friction without losing your baseline of hope.
And in our dopamine-driven society where everything is instantly accessible, having the ability to endure the slow burn of real achievement is a huge evolutionary advantage.
Oh, a massive advantage.
Yeah.
But to maintain that active endurance, the text warns in Principle 6 that we have to free ourselves from greed, hatred, and unhealthy attachment.
It describes greed as creating endless dissatisfaction and attachment as a direct path to suffering. It essentially describes a treadmill of wanting.
The hedonic treadmill, yes.
Right. If you were always greedy for the next promotion or the next house or the next milestone, you never actually arrive. You were just running faster and faster to stay in the exact same place of perpetual dissatisfaction.
That is the trap. The mechanism of detachment, which the text advocates for, is wildly misunderstood.
People think it means you just don't care.
Exactly. Letting go of unnecessary desires isn't about apathy. It isn't about not caring if you succeed or fail. It is a highly strategic choice to shift your emotional attachment away from the outcome, which you cannot control.
And attach it entirely to your effort, which you can control.
Yes.
You are dropping the heavy backpack. If you are hiking up a mountain carrying a 70-pound bag of resentment, greed, and anxiety over whether it will rain, you aren't going to have the endurance to reach the peak.
You have to drop the unnecessary psychological weight to maintain that persistent calmness. True freedom comes from a sense of internal contentment that isn't hostage to external results.
So we've actively taken control of our minds. We've dropped the heavy backpack of greed, and we've learned to grab the umbrella of acceptance when the storms hit.
We're doing good.
We have built a resilient, balanced internal state. But humans are highly social creatures. How does this internal peace translate into our relationships and our actions in the real world?
This is where the text shifts from self-preservation to the outward ripple effect of a disciplined mind. Having stabilized yourself, the mandate is to project that stability outward.
And it begins with a very clear directive from Principle 4, never cause unnecessary suffering.
Never cause unnecessary suffering.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text uses a phrase that I absolutely love. It says, every person is fighting unseen battles.
Such a great line.
A gentle word, an honest action, or a helping hand can brighten someone's darkest day. That phrase, unseen battles, is such a powerful reframe.
It really is.
It forces you to remember that the person who just cut you off in traffic, or the colleague who snapped at you in a meeting, has an entire complex life full of grief or medical debt or family stress that you know absolutely nothing about.
It demands a default state of empathy. When you genuinely internalize the reality that everyone is fighting an unseen battle, your initial cognitive reaction to their bad behavior shifts.
You don't take it as personally.
Right. Instead of immediate defensiveness, you default to curiosity and perhaps even grace. You realize their hostility usually has very little to do with you.
But this brings up a highly complicated scenario. The text states in Principle 1 that we must conquer anger with love.
Yes.
It argues that responding to anger with more anger only creates deeper conflict, and that the strongest person isn't the one who wins the argument, but the one who chooses compassion over revenge. So how do we realistically execute this without becoming a doormat? Like, when someone is actively being dishonest, manipulative, or flat out cruel to us, isn't responding with love just a form of weakness? We can't just let ourselves be victimized.
We absolutely shouldn't. That is a critical distinction that often gets lost in philosophical discussions. There is a massive difference between setting a boundary and seeking retaliation.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Choosing compassion over revenge doesn't mean you allow someone to abuse you or take advantage of you. It means you refuse to let their toxicity dictate your character.
So it's about holding your ground without absorbing their venom.
Yes. The source document explicitly links this to Principle 9, living with truth and integrity. Choosing honesty and integrity builds a life free from regret.
Because you acted in alignment with your own values.
Exactly. Retaliation, on the other hand, requires you to step down into the mud with the other person. When you respond to someone's anger with your own anger, you are literally handing them the steering wheel to your mind.
Oh, wow.
You are allowing an erratic, angry person to dictate your emotional state.
So choosing compassion over revenge is actually the ultimate form of self-protection.
It is a defensive maneuver as much as it is an act of grace.
That's a great way to put it.
This raises an important question about legacy. Showing compassion isn't just a gift you bestow upon the other person. It is a mechanism to maintain harmony within yourself.
Right.
Retaining your anger towards someone is famously compared to drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
It just doesn't work.
It only corrodes your own internal peace. When you choose a compassionate detachment, you maintain your integrity, which the text argues is the bedrock of a peaceful mind.
And that philosophy of outward action expands even further. It doesn't just stop at human interaction.
No, it goes much broader.
Principle 10 calls for us to practice compassion toward all living beings. It states that kindness is the highest expression of humanity, and that showing compassion to people, animals, and nature creates a profound harmony within yourself and the broader world.
It fundamentally redefines the concept of legacy. It states that a compassionate heart leaves a legacy that wealth can never replace.
Which is completely counter to our culture today.
Totally. In a culture obsessed with leaving behind financial empires or statues, this philosophy suggests that your true legacy is simply the energetic echo of how you treated the living things around you.
It brings us full circle. We start by pulling ourselves out of the noisy hustle culture that demands we accumulate wealth and dominate others.
Right.
And we arrive at a framework where the ultimate goal is a legacy of quiet kindness.
It outlasts any physical monument you could possibly build.
So what does this all mean for you as you go about your day? We've navigated through the internal mechanisms of the mind, the friction of external reality, and the complexity of human interaction.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But the source document synthesizes all of these concepts into one cohesive final moral.
The conclusion is a really powerful summary. It asserts that a peaceful mind, noble thoughts, truthful actions, patience, self-control, and compassion are the true, unshakable foundations of a meaningful existence.
They form the bedrock.
Right. When you consistently make those hard choices, when you choose love over anger, acceptance over resistance, honesty over deception, and kindness over selfishness, you don't just transform your own internal landscape.
You act as a stabilizing force for everyone around you.
Exactly.
The document leaves us with this ultimate takeaway. It says, real happiness comes not from possessing more, but from becoming a better human being every day.
It shifts the entire focus of our lives.
From the accumulation of external things to the internal evolution of the self.
It is essentially asking for consciousness. It isn't demanding perfection. I mean, humans will always struggle with ego, impatience, and fear.
We're only human.
Exactly. It is simply asking you to be intensely conscious of your thoughts, conscious of your resistance to reality, and conscious of your impact on others.
Beautifully said.
But before we wrap up today's analysis, I want to leave you with something to really mull over, something that pulls all these threads together.
Let's hear it.
We discussed how your thoughts inevitably become your destiny, and how mastering those thoughts is the hardest battle you will fight.
Right.
We discussed how a compassionate heart leaves a legacy that wealth can never replicate. And we discussed the profound realization that every single person walking past you today is fighting an unseen battle.
Mm-hmm.
So if we synthesize all of that, what if the ultimate measure of a truly successful life isn't found in your own personal victories at all? What if the true measure of a successful life is simply the number of unseen battles we helped others fight without ever needing to take the credit?
Wow. Helping someone survive an unseen battle and walking away without needing them to even know you were the one holding the umbrella?
That's the real victory.
That is the exact definition of a quiet, powerful frequency. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you can take these insights, put your hands firmly on the steering wheel of your own mind, grab that umbrella when the reality of the weather gets rough, and tune out the noise. Until next time, take care.